Presidential contenders clashed on stage at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library last night as the candidates looked to gain momentum in the 2024 campaign. The 2024 hopefuls threw barbs at each other while discussing hot-button issues like immigration, for example, bureaucratic reform, Chinese influence in the U.S., and energy independence. And they also called out the top polling candidate, former President Donald Trump, who did not attend. Take a listen.
You know who else is missing in action? Donald Trump is missing in action. He should be on this stage tonight.
And Donald Trump should be here to answer for that, but he's not. And I want to look in that camera right now and tell you, Donald, I know you're watching. You can't help yourself. I know you're watching, okay? And you're not here tonight, not because of polls and not because of your indictments. You're not here tonight because you're afraid of being on the stage and defending your record. You're ducking these things. And let me tell you what's going to happen. You keep doing that, no one up here is going to call you Donald Trump anymore. We're going to call you Donald Duck.
Steve Laffey is a Republican presidential candidate running for the nomination in 2024. He is also the former mayor of Cranston, Rhode Island, and joins us now to discuss last night's debate. Steve, welcome back to Morning Rush. You heard there Chris Christie, Ron DeSantis a bit calling out the former president. He's not there. I mean, how legitimate can a debate be if the clear leader in the polls isn't there for it?
Well, it wasn't legitimate, and I'm glad you played those two clips because the overwhelming disaster last night was as tough as anybody could get among the servile sycophants who showed up for the debate. The real question is, Donald Trump has been convicted of sexually abusing a lady, ordered to pay $5 million in fines. Is that okay to be running for president? He has 91 counts of federal indictments against him, including what a middle-class lieutenant colonel is serving 3 years in jail for, taking home documents. The question should really be, why is it okay that Donald Trump is not in jail? This weakness by my party means the party officially has ended. There is no Republican Party. The people who showed up, as the evil genius said in Michigan last night, Donald Trump, sounding much like Genesis 3:4 and the serpent, he says things that are half true and then hits home. And he plays these people like a pipe. And so why did Fox News bring out Karl Rove and the old gang? I haven't watched Fox News in 7 or 8 years. These are the same people. And it seemed to be a pro-Donald Trump debate because that's the weakness of the clips you played. We have a candidate who's going to jail for a long time for taking home at least top secret documents. And if he was a colonel, he'd be in jail for 3 years. Why didn't someone ask Ron DeSantis that question? Why didn't someone ask Ron DeSantis, there's a person in your state in jail for 3 years for taking home secret documents. Why is Donald Trump even out on bail? This is a disaster for America, folks. An absolute disaster because no one will take on these issues. I've tried, and I can't even get into the debate because of the way they scheduled it. They schedule it so that you have to literally lie about what you're going to do to be in the debate, which several people have done.
So with all that being said, if we're focusing on last night, who stood out to you during the debate and why? There are some people that said, we talked to a guest earlier, Bill Kristol, who said Nikki Haley was the one who stood out to him. Who stood out to you?
Yeah, Mr. Kristol, wow, another old timer from forever ago. Listen, the debate was actually good for one of two things. One, things moved toward executives who have executive backgrounds. So Ron DeSantis did a pretty good job finally talking about what he does in Florida. But the only person who answered the questions directly was Governor Burgum of North Dakota. He is the only one in the race, like me, who has executive background in the private sector and has done a really good job in North Dakota running a state. He didn't emphasize it enough, but the mistake of the entire debate is that no one seems to realize in this country that the President of the United States is an executive position. So I was happy to see Mr. Ramaswamy flounder again because I met him a couple of weeks ago, and I shuddered to think that he would ever be president. But those are the two that I think stood out.
So when you look at how these candidates have approached Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, for example, he's a very brash person. That's part of his brand. But, you know, when it comes to Donald Trump, he doesn't approach him the way that he would, say, a reporter asking a question. Yet you have Chris Christie, who goes right at Donald Trump, and he's near the bottom of the group that was on stage. Is there an effective way to actually approach the issue of Donald Trump and make a dent in the lead that he has in the polls? Because at this point, and there's still a long way to go, it appears he's running away with it.
Yeah, the only effective way is to have an awful lot of money, be a celebrity, and then take my website and go after Donald Trump on the issues that he completely failed at. For example, if Governor Burkham or Ron DeSantis would point out all the executive decisions that were made by Donald Trump, which were bizarre. For example, hiring Anthony Scaramucci. How many chief of staffs did you have? What was the turnover in administration? Who did you actually pardon? People like the former governor of Illinois, people like Steve Bannon were in the administration. Point that out over and over again, and maybe you've got a chance. But
do you think that voters would actually care about that, though? Because I think a lot of people do know about that, but it seems like when that issue comes up, it just doesn't hit home with voters.
Well, it doesn't really come up. I don't see it. I didn't see it last night. I didn't see anybody go directly at Donald Trump. Referring to Donald Duck, that was one of the weakest things I've ever seen in any debate in my life. And I've watched a lot of them. So what's really missing from the debate, and Fox won't allow it, is that we're in a financial crisis. And so where were the questions? Was there a question about the AAA bond rating being gone? If you're an executive, here would be a question. If you're the chief executive officer of the president and the biggest line item is Social Security and it's $65 trillion in arrears, Ron DeSantis, why do you say you won't touch it? Are you just copying Donald Trump? Listen, unless we get to the middle class, which was never mentioned, the middle class was 70% of America in 1962. It's 30%. Why has it been destroyed? It's been destroyed by public schools, communist China, and the Federal Reserve. How would you change that to bring back the middle class? The one question that everybody whiffed on is this giant inequality in wealth. It was pointed out that the General Motors and Ford executives make 385 times as the people who are on the strike for striking today. It used to be 30 years ago that they made 20 times as much. They tried asking Mike Pence about this, and he didn't answer the question. So these are the things that have to be answered. But what's about to happen is that these people will all seemingly stay in the race. Donald Trump will run at 60% and do his gig, and it'll be over for the Republican Party because let me let you all know, Joe Biden won't be the candidate. It'll be somebody else, and the Republican Party will now lose if Donald Trump's the candidate, worse than Goldwater in '64.
Who do you think it will be if it's not President Biden?
Oh, I think it'll be one of the governors. It looks as though Governor Newsom is with President Biden's blessing. The Democrats are not stupid like we are in our party. We don't have a party. You can say whatever you want anytime. There can be anybody can run now because of Donald Trump. You can insult whoever you want. You can make fun of John McCain. You can do whatever you want in our party. And that doesn't exist in the Democratic Party. And so I think they'll put up somebody else because President Biden can't run again. That's pretty obvious. And then what will the Republican Party do? Right now, the head of the RNC should be calling a giant meeting with all members of the party, congressmen, governors, RNC, Republican National Committee, women and men, and they should change this debate schedule to make sure that Donald Trump is not the nominee. Because if he is and runs against somebody else besides Biden, he will lose in a dramatic fashion.
All right, Republican presidential candidate Steve Laffey, thank you for your time. Always good to see you. John?